What's up, Kevin?
Hey, man. Nice Temple of the Dog shirt.
Thanks. Hey, you noticed that pretty quick. I was wondering how long it's going to take for you to notice that. Appreciate it.
Well, it's standing. It's beautifully bright and purple, and the way it's always been.
Gorgeous. Yeah, and I was at the forum in 2016. A very good friend of mine, Christian Lavender, was at the Paramount Theater for the hometown show. Were you at any of those shows, man?
No, I couldn't make any of them. I was on tour. And then by the time I was able to catch maybe like Madison or whatever, New York, Madison Square Garden, everything had sold out to the point where I was just like, I can't be bothered. It's too hard to try and find a ticket for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I bet. And it was crazy real quick. I mean, I got a ticket for that and I was right behind the stage, about a few rows up. And I was right there behind Matt Cameron the whole show, and family in there, and everything was amazing. But yeah. Seriously, thanks so much. I'm honored for you to be joining me on I Ask No One. Cheers. I got a little sip.
Jägermeister.
Yeah. Future sponsor of the show. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, top of every show, I like to start off with a fact of the day. So today's January 29th. Hard to believe it's been 5 years since David Bowie passed away.
Yep.
And 3 weeks after he passed in 2016, 12 of his records were in the top 40. Pretty crazy, the impact he's had. Have you ever met David Bowie before, Kev?
Yeah, I met him a long time ago, right when he was doing the Afraid of Americans track with Trent Reznor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was, I was with my now ex-wife and Renee, and she had taken me to a dinner that Nancy Berry, who was running Virgin Records at the time, was putting on for David and Trent to release that single. So it was a nice, intimate setting. There were only 10 of us at the table. An incredibly nice guy, and obviously huge influence on I think every single musician out there in the world. I don't think there's a single musician that could say that they don't like David Bowie. I don't know of anyone that would say that.
Yeah.
Just so fucking talented.
Yeah, you know what, man. And the artist that he was, it was funny. My twin brother, Ryan, he's going to be watching this from Athens, Greece here soon. And he bought me a cameo when I visited him right before the pandemic hit. Tommy Lee, cameo from Tommy Lee. And he was listening to, there's a song Rebel Rebel by David Bowie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was on in the background there. So everyone loves Bowie. I thought that was really cool. Have you met any of your other musical heroes? It's really cool you've met David Bowie. Anyone else that jumps out at you?
Oh, yeah, man. Robert Plant, the guys in Metallica, Lenny Kravitz, Joe Strummer.
How was Robert Plant?
He's cool. I mean, incredibly generous and kind. I was after I got divorced from previous said ex-wife, I dated John Bonham's daughter Zoe for a little bit, and we went to see Robert play at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles, and then afterwards she introduced me to him. He's her godfather. So, but yeah, I mean, incredibly kind, really interesting person. Like could have talked to anybody and sat and talked to me and Zoe for about 45 minutes. So, it's. Sometimes I say never meet your heroes. I haven't, there's only one that I ever really met. That was because we were touring with him that I love Steven Tyler. He's like my favorite singer of all time, really kind of next to Robert Plant, but maybe even more so. And we toured with him, and he just, there's moments around him that you just kind of feel like, he just doesn't give a fuck about anybody. And, it's even the guys in his band, and it's just a weird thing, but there's some people like that say stupid shit or do stupid shit that, I think we all do. I'm sure that people could say that about me, at some point in my career where I was maybe cruel or maybe dismissive to them or something. But yeah, I mean, that's really the only one I've ever met that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
What year did you meet, or what year did you see Robert Plant at the Greek Theater?
It would have been, I want to say 2001, 2001. Long time ago, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, I just saw him in Sydney a few years back. Amazing at the State Theater there. And actually, I'm holding a guitar for my little brother Leonard. He's coming home soon from Napa, and he has a guitar signed by Plant and Page there that our family wanted at an auction. I was gonna put that right here. Yeah, very cool heroes, man. You're one of mine, and I get to meet you and spend time with a rocker named Kevin in the industry. That's pretty awesome. And thanks again, man.
Real original name we have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I got a buddy named Kevin Martin, and he is one of the goofiest, funniest, such a complete metalhead, Cannibal Corpse, you know, Hatebreed.
Yep.
We've been in the pit enough times, and it's just funny. I have the other Kevin Martin here. But
yeah, I'm not a Cannibal Corpse Hatebreed kind of guy, but I actually my name is supposed to be Seamus after my great grandfather, and my mother kiboshed that. So I'm still angry with her about that.
Seamus Martin. That sounds like a pretty badass stage name there, Kev.
Well, it's Irish. The family's Irish. It would have been Seamus Colin Martin. So.
Oh, yeah. Right. How did you get your start in the music business? You were born in Illinois, is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Elgin. My father was a sales manager for a bearing company, and then took a job with a salt company called Kerry Salt. So we grew up kind of, moving through the Midwest, and ended up in San Antonio, Texas when I was 10. Actually, no, I was 11. And we lived in San Antonio till I turned 14. And then we moved to Seattle like 1984, and started kind of playing around bands. Mainly like punk rock bands is kind of what I grew up on and what I really liked. And so I played, in several like punk rock bands around the city. And then I was a drummer. And then this friend of mine, Rick Vaughn, had started this band and needed somebody to sing on some demos that he had written. So he called me and asked me if I would sing on them. And I was like, well, I'm a drummer. I don't really sing rock and roll, but he said, well, I've heard you saying at parties and shit. Why don't you come up and try it out and see what happens? And that ended up becoming Uncle Duke, which ended up becoming Candlebox. So my drumming career was over. And then Candlebox got signed in 1992, and we released a debut record in 93. So it all kind of, from 84 to 94, those 10 years, my life changed, rapidly and enormously. But I've got no regrets, and looking back, I wouldn't change a thing, really.
That's awesome, man. So you went from Illinois to Seattle, Washington in the mid 80s, and you got signed in, was it 92 you said?
Yeah, fall of 92.
Okay, so this year, and by the way, to my viewers, I have Kevin Martin here, lead singer, co-founder of Seattle grunge heroes Candlebox. And Candlebox, where did you get that name from? I have never seen it in an interview. I'm just really curious about that.
It's from a Midnight Oil lyric. I'm a huge Midnight Oil fan. Peter Garrett, I went to see them right around my 18th birthday in the Moore Theater in Seattle. And I love Midnight Oil. Actually, one of my first bands was called Wagga Wagga. So Wagga Wagga is a little town in Australia that people don't really know about unless you're Australian. And I have had an affinity for Australia since I was a little kid. I don't know what it is. Maybe in a past life I was Australian or something. And so, like a lot of my favorite bands were Australian. Per Ubu and Hoodoo Gurus and Split Ends were actually New Zealand. But, kind of that continent and that country really had a strong hold on me from a very young age. So Peter Garrett was one of those human beings that, when you see them live, they kind of take over whatever it is that you feel the music brings to you. They take that over and just kind of drill it into you. It's kind of mind blowing. And so we needed a band name, and I was looking through some lyrics that they have a song called Tin Legs and Tin Minds. And it says boxed in like candles. He was talking about the Aboriginal people, where you can't take them and put them in these reservations because they're just so bright and they burn so brightly that it will burn them out. So that's kind of like, I said, what about Candlebox? I didn't even know that Candlebox was a real thing, or a Candlebox was a real thing. I guess it is how they used to light houses back in the 16th, 15th, 16th, 17th century. So
I'm going to have to look up some of those bands. I've never heard of those bands from Australia and New Zealand that you were just mentioning. Very interesting.
They're all new wave, kind of new wave and pop.
A very good friend of mine and his wife, Fred and Jenny, in Grand Island in New York. We're here in Buffalo, New York. Snowy and beautiful and all that. You're in LA right now?
I am. Well, I'm in Palm Springs, but yeah, sorry about your Bills, man. I thought you guys were going to make it this year.
Oh, man. I still had the Kelly jersey hung up from last week. I didn't want to touch it. And thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. AFC East champions. I'm assuming you're a fan of the Seattle Seahawks or the Rams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Seahawks. Rams are, not really an LA team anymore. They just because they come back doesn't mean they're an LA team. But
right.
I was a Cowboys fan growing up. And then when I moved to Seattle, I kind of, because it was so formative on me, I think I adopted that team and still a Seahawks fan. Yeah.
Sure. I know how much.
Anyways, I didn't interrupt you. I didn't mean to do that.
All good, man. You mentioned the Bills. I'm just like, because last week we had BillsMafia members from all around the world checking in on the previous episode from, Greece to the UK, and my friends in Goijra, their tour manager and stuff. So, God bless the Bills. Can't wait till next season. But my friend,
you just said Goijra. There's one of my favorite bands.
No shit. So you're not a fan of Hatebreed and Cannibal Corpse, but you're down with some Goijra, huh?
I like Goijra. I think Goijra is super interesting metal, man. I really, really like what they do.
Wow. Total surprise, man. I mean, those guys are my buds. And
really,
what kind of Goijra do you like? You like some new stuff, old stuff? Have you ever seen them live before?
I've never seen them live. I came across them by accident through a friend. I can't remember who was. They were listening to it in their car. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" It would have been about maybe 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I just kind of fell in love. So I really don't have like a favorite, this era of the band. I think that what I like about them is that they're constantly pushing the envelope. They move like Mastodon and bands like that, where they're constantly moving in a forward direction musically. And I love that about them. I think that's what every band needs to do. So I did not know that they're friends of yours, and please give them my best when you speak to them, because I love them.
I absolutely will. It's just so awesome, because Bron Daler, he was on the show last week. He checked in from Atlanta, Georgia. He's part of the BillsMafia. He was born and raised in Rochester, New York, not too far away. I was in their High Road music video. So if you're chilling later, play some High Road. You look for the musketeer with the sword and I die and everything. It's pretty fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, but Fred and Jenny, they own a candle company. They make their own candles locally, and I'll include a link below. So this is going to be right around the point where I'm going to put a little video of Fred and Jenny, because Rinart is awesome, and this is why. So yeah, there you go. Quote of the day. Just to kind of build on bands evolving and changing their sound and staying true to themselves. And it's probably the reason I like Candlebox too. My quote, one of my favorite quotes ever, was from Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of my heroes. For me, life is continuously being hungry. And I think it's really important to always, keep that in mind, be aware of it, and always just go forward. But every once in a while, actually more often than not, kind of sit back, relax, put some music on in my headphones. And I think, to me, there's no bigger time traveling mechanism for me than listening to music and kind of just, disappearing in the music. And it just makes me flash back immediately. And one of those songs that I just get really nostalgic about, Kevin, is Far Behind by Candlebox, off your self-titled debut record, which came out in '93. When I hear Far Behind, it brings me right back to Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida. I went there, graduated in 2010 with my twin brother, and Jacksonville Rock Radio, they used to play the shit out of that song, man. And I smell the sea salt in the air, open windows in my car, Far Behind, maybe a girl in my passenger seat or whatever. If you could just tell me just how that song came about and with your boys in Candlebox, and did you know you were creating something that's going to be this timeless and in 2021 is still, I think it's got 23 million views on YouTube or something like that.
That's not enough.
Which is really cool.
I don't know if we knew that song was going to be, the sustaining power of the band, if you will. I think that we always kind of felt that there was something special about it, but I think more so we thought that You or Cover Me was going to be the song that kind of establishes, I think that, everybody looks at ballads and thinks that, a ballad is what every band needs to have. You think back to Pearl Jam with Black and that kind of song, and Temple of the Dog with Rooster, or Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog, or Mother Love Bone, Chloe Dancer. I mean, it's always like everybody's like the ballad, Don't Stop Believing by Journey. But I think that it was the message of the song. When I took the word Andy out of it and changed it now Maybe, because it was written for Andy Wood, Mother Love Bone. Andy was a huge inspiration and influence on me as a musician. I was a huge fan of his band Malfunkshun. I think that Andy was the closest thing to Freddie Mercury that the rock and roll scene was going to come close to. And unfortunately, he lost his battle with heroin addiction as well, as a lot of musicians have. But so I think that when we changed it to Maybe, and we made it a little more accessible to everybody, that people started to realize that that song was going to be something that was going to be very, very special. I don't know why it triggered the emotion in me to sing about Andy the way it did. Maybe it was because it was such a good song. And it does give that flashback to so many people. Pete, my old guitar player and co-founder of Candlebox, often says, play the movie when you hear certain songs, because you immediately go back to that, like you said, that film reel of college. And I love St. Augustine as well. What a great little town, man.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Huge fan of that city. It does pull those emotions out of you. So maybe that's what it did for me, was the way that the song was being played made me think about Andy, and it lended itself to those lyrics. Every single artist in the world can only hope to have that one song that tends or lends them that career, or gives them that career. Most artists would like to have 4 or 5 or 6 of those, but if you have one, you can last a pretty long time on it. It's given us a career now for 27 plus years. So I've got no complaints, man. I love that song. I still love playing it. I still love singing it. I love hearing the crowd sing it back to me. There's just some really special moments in that song that I think everybody that is a Candlebox fan finds something or is able to attach themselves to something in that song. And then new fans, people that have never heard it before, hear it for the first time, like, what is this song? And it's kind of timeless. So, I don't know if we were to try and, rewrite that song right now, or try to write a song like that right now, I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I don't know if I have that connection with anything the way I did at that moment with that music.
Thank you for writing your music. Thank you for your music, but especially thank you for that song, man. It's awesome. I actually told my cousin Casey Bauskill, she's out there in the Palisades right now. She works for Rand and kicking ass. And she immediately mentioned Far Behind. I'm going to go smoke a cigar and listen to some Far Behind. And she's right around my age. But real quick, I'm going to continue on Far Behind. And again, I have Kevin Martin joining me on I Ask No One, from Candlebox, singer and co-founder. The name Jeff Angell, does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. From the band Missionary Position and now Walking Papers. Me, my twin brother Ryan, and Christian, we went out to Europe for 2 weeks, 9 cities in the summer of 2014. Rock am Ring, our boys in Metallica, Sevenfold, Mastodon, all those guys. Amazing 4-day festival. But the very last day of our 2-week trip, we were in Prague, Czech Republic, and we were seeing Walking Papers in a very small basement venue. Duff McGagan was right there. We were right there, stage right by him. And after the show, we were just shooting the shit with Barrett Martin, just having Pilsner or Quells, and they're all sweaty and they're post-gig and just hanging out. And got talking with Jeff Angell, which until that show, I've never heard of Jeff Angell of the Missionary Position and Walking Papers. And one of the things he mentioned, I asked him if he ever met Kurt Cobain or ever crossed paths with Nirvana before. And he said back when, you talk about Andy Wood. Andy Wood, for my viewers, was a lead singer of Mother Love Bone out of Seattle. He was roommates with Chris Cornell. He was like Freddie Mercury, and whether it was to 40 people or 4 people or 100 people in the venue, he played like there was thousands upon thousands. And I draw actually a lot of inspiration from that, whether I'm having 2 or 3 viewers logging in live, listening, or 14 or 15, whatever. But he was asked, who do you want to open for this show that they were playing at the Crocodile, Mother Love Bone or Nirvana? And he chose by far Mother Love Bone. This is back in '87 or so. I guess Mother Love Bone was just so much bigger, so much hotter than Nirvana, which I thought was pretty interesting. But with going back to Far Behind, I looked up some performances of you playing that, especially solo acoustic. And how did that come about where you were playing Far Behind for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention? I really thought that was generous of you to spend time to play that song for them.
Well, I mean, it's, suicide prevention is I've been affected by it on so many levels. Suicide of people that I've known that have committed it, or relationships with friends of mine that have lost family members or, best friends to it. So when I was asked to do it, it was a no-brainer. I mean, Far Behind's not about suicide. We actually have a song on a record called Disappearing Airports, which is about suicide, called The Bridge. But Far Behind is a song that I think a lot of people are able to attach that emotion to when they lose somebody to death by suicide. It's an unfortunate choice that people make, but I can certainly understand why people choose that path. I don't agree with it. I don't condone it. I don't support it. I find it to be incredibly selfish. I have not listened to Soundgarden or anything Chris has done since his passing. I just find it too difficult. So when I was asked to do it, I certainly jumped at the opportunity. I'm happy to sing that song anytime I'm asked to do it, anytime anybody asks me to sing it for something that has to do with people having awareness towards something, like suicide or death or drug prevention or anything where people feel that they need a voice for themselves. I think that song lends that. I find it difficult at times to play that song acoustically alone, because I really love when the whole band plays it. It's one of those songs that, when that solo kicks in, it just has kind of an emotion to it that directs the lyric and is an extension of the lyric. And I love that about that song. So like when I was asked to do it for the American Suicide Prevention, anything like that, I have no problem doing it.
It's a beautiful gesture. Someone who would be very stoked to know that I'm having a conversation with Kevin Martin, singer of Candlebox, co-founder of Seattle grunge heroes Candlebox, is my late great buddy Mike Holden, and lost him in October of 2018. I know he's right here, checking this out, and nice gesture. And God bless Michael Holden, and really like that a lot. Have you ever met, and by the way, I speak from someone who at age, 28, I got diagnosed with major depression, 2016. And this is a podcast that was born out of the pandemic in April or May of last year. So It's fun. I'm in real estate. I'm going, staying busy. And I like to kind of take that hat off. I have a bunch of showings later and so on, but to hang out and do this and have you here is pretty cool. So thanks again for joining me.
My pleasure. My pleasure, man.
Awesome. Have you ever met Kurt Cobain or Chris Cornell?
I never met Kurt. I was pretty good friends with Chris. I met Chris 86, 87. Yeah, early on. Well, I was working at a shoe store with, at the time was his manager, Susan Silver, and she ended up becoming his wife years later. They have Lily Cornell Silver together. Chris was when I first saw them, Soundgarden, he was playing drums. They were a three-piece, and it was Chris, Kim, and Hiro Yamamoto on bass. And Chris was singing, and then Matt Cameron joined, I think, 6 months after that, after I saw that. So I got to see the early inception of the band. I got to know Chris really, really well from 87 till like 1990.
Oh.
And then Soundgarden, blew up and took off, and I, would see him maybe at parties or at events in Los Angeles or events in Seattle, whatever was going on. Never forgot me. Always said hello. I would see him in Los Angeles at the Beverly Hills Hotel, where he would stay occasionally when he would come into town to work. And we would sit down and chat for, half an hour or whatever. I mean, was one of the kindest, most generous and sweetest human beings I've ever met. And very gracious, an incredibly gracious person. So I was, very sad when Chris decided to do what he did.
Yep. And a few months after that was Chester Bennington. I know this is a somber kind of moment, but I just need to bring this up. I actually had this tattoo actually done in December. Street Soldier
Nice.
from Linkin Park. Yeah. Layne Staley, another fallen hero. I have to ask you about Layne Staley. I saw that you've met him before. Do you have a goofy or funny ass moment that you had with Layne, and how was your relationship with him? And what was the reputation that he had in the scene back then? And even Kurt or Chris, like what was the reputation that these kind of guys had that were waving the flag like yourself around the world with this type of music? Well,
Kurt was just a magician, man. He was so brilliant, magical. People respected him enormously. I mean, his talent was, I think, far beyond what a lot of the musicians in Seattle were creating at the time. I mean, I know if you talk to Tad or any of the guys from kind of the Melvins and shit like that, they'll all tell you that Kurt's ability to turn a pop song into a punk song into a pop song was, second to none.
Yeah.
Chris's reputation was the same, the golden voice of Seattle, the golden god, the new Robert Plant. Layne Staley was considered the voice of metal for Seattle. I mean, Alice in Chains was considered a metal band. They weren't really considered grunge.
Flashing Titans, man.
Yeah. So, and I, band like Diamond Lie and Alice in Chains. I mean, it's such a metal title or band name, but he was the sweetest person, incredibly kind, very shy. I met Layne first at a party in this university district, and it would have been about 1987. And then we shared a wall between both bands at the Music Bank, which was the notorious marijuana growth factory in Seattle, where they had all the band rooms next to it. I knew Sean before, a little bit more than Layne, because Sean would come over and borrow drumsticks all the time from me in this band that I was playing drums in. He's like, "Hey, guys, sticks," and of course, Sean Kinney, so it's not like you're going to say no. But then I ended up hanging out with Layne quite a bit. One of my favorite stories about Layne is after he got sober and he had made the Mad Season record with Mike McCready, and I went over to his apartment with an old friend of his, an old bandmate, Johnny Bakalis, who's a really good friend of mine. Johnny was in the original Alice in Chains, and he was the bass player for that band. And we went over to hang out, and Layne was now sober, and Mike was over, and we were just chatting and catching up. And he had just done those etchings for the album cover for Mad Season. And I was just looking through them, and he had just signed them. He's like, "Hey man, take a couple." And I was like, "No, dude, I can't, thank you. It's very kind." He's like, "Listen, take a couple, please. It'd be my gift to you." And McCready's like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, you made me pay for mine." And Layne goes, "You're not a singer." And that was it. So I was considered a singer by Layne, which was, at the time, I don't know if he was a fan of Candlebox. We never really talked about either Alice in Chains or Candlebox. Our relationship was merely as, how are you? What's going on? How are you staying clean? That kind of thing with him, because everybody's so concerned about him because he was such a visceral performer, and really a voice of that Seattle sound. So my relationship with him was purely friends, not bandmates, and not fans of bands. That was really it. It was just good friends.
Hmm. Now, Metallica is my number one. Seen them 38 times around the world. Alice in Chains, I think it's been like 12 or 13 times. But with the new Alice in Chains, with Will Duvall, my twin brother likes their new records even better than the Layne records. Probably because of age. We're 32, turning 33 soon. Do you have a favorite AIC record that stands out to you, or a few songs that maybe Candlebox would cover live if you were to get on that? Because Sean Keeney right there, Sean Keeney, Dave Grohl, Lars, that's my biggest inspiration. Love Sean Keeney's drumming.
He's a great drummer. Yeah, I mean, Wood is a no-brainer. We've covered it. Rooster we've covered. I think Dirt is probably my favorite record. Facelift is a little bit too, butt rock, if you will, for me. And it's not, it's just not my kind of music, but I did love it. And I loved seeing that. I loved seeing them perform it live better than listening to it, I think. I think there were just elements of that record live that came across that weren't recorded on the record. But yeah, Dirt was, hands down my favorite Alice in Chains record. Angry Chair is brilliant, but there's a B-side, I think that they released on that record. It was released a few years ago. It was supposed to be on Dirt that I love.
Fear the Voices.
Yeah. So great.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
So great. Yeah, so great. But yeah, there's really brilliant record. We were supposed to do that Metallica tour with them in '94, and Layne was in rehab, so we took the direct slot. So it was supposed to be Suicidal, Candlebox, Alice in Chains, Metallica. And then Layne went into rehab. And at the time, we were selling 150,000 units a record or a week of our debut album. So Metallica's like, listen, you can be direct support. So, we did that whole tour that summer with them. I was really looking forward to have been, sharing the stage with Layne, because I had never done that. I hadn't done any dates with them. So I was, kind of bummed that they weren't on the bill, but at the same time, I was happy that, we were direct support to Metallica. So great memories.
Now, I thought you replaced them. So it was going to be AIC, Candlebox, and Metallica, and Therapy, or whoever else?
No, if you look at the touring poster, it says Metallica, Alice in Chains, Candlebox, Suicidal Tendencies. And that was the entire tour from Vancouver all the way to Miami for the entire summer. So it was Suicidal, Candlebox, Alice in Chains, Metallica. That was the order of the show. And then when Alice backed out because of Layne's rehab stint, we had Fight open some of those dates before Suicidal. And there was one other band I can't remember that filled in for a couple of dates that Fight could do, but
no. White Zombie?
No. Nope. No, it was kind of like I don't know. I'll remember. I'll go through my brain stem and figure it out at some point. But It was really cool to have Fight on there because I loved Halford, and Judas Priest was one of my favorite bands. So we get to hang out with Rob quite a bit, and his band, great guys in that band, young kids that he had playing with him. The Suicidal guys were dicks. Mike Muir was a total asshole as he threatened our lives and all this kind of bullshit. Which I said to him, I was like, dude, I'm a Suicidal fan. I can't, I don't know what your fucking problem is, but he did not like us being direct support with Metallica, but whatever, to each his own.
Yeah. Well, Fight, I mean, shit, Rapid Fire. They covered Rapid Fire together in Miami on that tour. And then I saw the Fillmore 30th anniversary shows in 2011 from Metallica. They brought Halford back out to sing Rapid Fire, and just amazing. One last thing about Layne, and then we'll move on real quick. In his last few years, late 90s, early 2000s, were you at all in touch with him? You just blocking everyone out?
Yeah, it was really, you weren't able to reach him by phone unless you called his house number. I didn't have his house number. I had gone home to Seattle to visit my family, and I ran into him at this coffee shop that was up on Queen Anne. I can't remember the name of it because I haven't lived in Seattle for so long, but it was early in the morning. He had just got out of rehab again. He looked healthy. His skin color was great. He had put on a little bit of weight.
What year was this, Kevin? What year?
Well, he died in 2002, right?
Right.
So it would have been probably March of 2002.
Oh, wow.
It was right before he passed. And I was like, "How are you? You look great." And he's like, "I think this is finally it. I think I'm finally gonna, be able to do this, and I've got a great support team around me." And the same thing that I think that heroin addicts always kind of say, and they always feel. But that is just a demon. It's a monster of a fucking drug, man. And so that was the last time I saw him, right before he passed.
God bless Layne Staley. God bless Michael Starr, LSMS, right on the drums there for Sean Kinney. You mentioned this tour with Metallica, and I just have to ask you about how your experience was there. In fact, the very first date of that tour was in Darien Lake, New York, not too far from Buffalo, where Metallica debuted the Kill Ride medley and The God That Failed. And Kevin Martin of Candlebox was there. And how was that tour, man, with Metallica? I mean, 1994 was a monster year for you guys. You were opening for Rush earlier in the year, and then all of a sudden you're opening for Metallica. That must have felt amazing to get that visibility with these all these fans.
Yeah, it was incredible, man. I mean, listen, there's still a lot of haters for Candlebox opening for Metallica out there. It's funny, every time Blabbermouth puts something on, the page about Candlebox, there's always some guy that's, I'm open Metallica, it fucking sucked.
Oh,
but
commenters.
But I mean, listen, it's their opinions. I don't give a fuck how many records have they sold. But
exactly.
I think at the end of the day, we learned a lot from Metallica. We learned a lot from those guys. They were really, really kind to us, very generous with their time. We spent a whole summer with them. So that's a lot of tour dates to hang out and get to know somebody. I still talk to Lars occasionally. We catch up, and it was a real special tour for us. It was a great opportunity. Of course, on that same tour we did Woodstock '94. We learned about how to be a rock band, I think, from those guys. I remember I did a stage dive in Vegas during our set. And because it was quite a ways to get from the stage to the crowd because of their barricade and security that Metallica had. And I made it. It was a long ass jump. I had to run from the back of the fucking stage. And I sang the song, and the crowd I did a crowd surf. It was awesome. And I got up back up stage, and after the set, Hetfield comes up to me and goes, "Don't ever fucking do that again." He's like, "You're out of your mind, man." He goes, "Our fans will fucking kill you." And I said, yeah, that's what I was hoping for. I was either get their attention or not get back to finish this fucking tour. and that was, it was kind of it for our relationship. He thought that was pretty funny. He was like, "All right, man, you're cool." But, it was an interesting thing. We had to fight for their respect, and we had to fight for that. We had to fight for that audience's respect every single day and every show. And we did it, and we earned a lot, and we learned a lot. And, I wouldn't change that for a thing.
It's amazing. That's a good piece of advice that you received from James Hetfield. Anything from Lars at all? Any bullshit? I mean, I know the egos were kind of running rampant back then, but
no, Lars was kind of like, "Man, it's fucking crazy, man. You crazy, man. Fuck, let's do some coke." But obviously they don't do that anymore. But
yeah.
they were really, really fucking great guys. Lars was cool. Jason was a fucking badass motherfucker.
Nice.
A lot of fun to hang out with, and just really kind, fucking cool dudes. We never saw any ego from them. We never got any kind of grief from them about anything. They were super supportive and really nice to hang out with.
That's all I hear from bands that open for Metallica is how much of a class act that they are. And to know that back then from '94, thank you. That's amazing. I didn't include this question beforehand, but I want to ask you, you opened for Aerosmith for the 1998 New Year's Eve. That must have been pretty awesome. Do you have a craziest or funniest tour moments that they have over the years, whether it was with Rush or Aerosmith or Metallica, something that happened on the road that maybe you wouldn't see elsewhere?
Well, the Rush tour was probably the one that would come to mind the most, because we used to tease their audience every night with, one of their songs, Passage of Bangkok, something they weren't, going going to be playing that evening in the set, just to, you know, kind of piss the audience off that they weren't playing it, because we would get their set list and generally they stuck to the same songs every single night, but sometimes they would drop something, or, you know, because I think in that day and age, you know, with the screens that you were running and the video and everything, you kind of had to stick to a set list. We didn't, we switched ours up most of the time, but so our last show with them was in Rochester, New York. And we went into Working Man. And just as we were kind of getting into the groove and I was about to sing, our instruments got shut off except for Scott on the drums, and Geddy was playing bass, and they had set up on the side of the stage where the monitor world was, where you couldn't see them. And Geddy's playing bass and singing. They cut my mic. Marty's bass gets cut. Pete's guitar gets cut. Alex is playing guitar, and Neil's over there with them. The three of them are watching us, and they actually play it. And the audience knows that it's Geddy singing, because I'm like this, looking around, and I look over, and he's down there, and the crowd goes fucking nuts.
La, 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 la. That's not Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. And that was, you know, that was cool. They were such great guys, man. Neil was such a fucking cool dude. I played golf. I played 18 holes of golf with him, and yeah. So that was, you know, Rush is probably my fondest memories. Metallica's the craziest memories. Aerosmith, I loved them. They were my favorite band growing up, but I don't really remember anything kind of amazing about that tour. I think we as a band were not getting along well, so maybe it was just not the right time for us to be touring with Aerosmith. You know, Pete's drug and alcohol problem was, you know, out of control, and nobody really wanted to be around one another. So it was kind of like, when can we get off this fucking trip, you know?
Gotcha. Okay. Next question. What's the biggest misconception that people have of you? I know we're going.
Me or the band?
Let's say biggest misconception of the band's Candlebox from Seattle.
That we moved to Seattle to get signed. I was the only one who moved there, and I moved there in '84. Certainly didn't move there to get signed. I was a fucking teenager. But that's the biggest misconception. I think that everybody kind of thought that, you know, because nobody knew who we were, because we were 4 and 5 years of age younger than the guys in Alice and Metallica, or Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Mother Love Bone. When those guys were getting signed, we were in high school, you know, sophomores in high school and juniors in high school and shit like that. So there's a big difference between a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old, you know, not only in the world of music, but certainly in the 80s. You know, nobody was paying attention to a fucking band from high school. So that was the biggest misconception, was that we had moved there to get signed, only because nobody knew who we were prior to Candlebox being a band that was being played on KSW in the city.
Mm-hmm. I love vocalists. I love singers. I have a tendency to scream in the car anytime Ryan and I are rocking out. You know, my twin brother's coming to town soon. It's going to be us 6 Lavellos all together for the first time in a few years. So it's going to be very special. We'll be blasting some Candlebox, that's for sure, reminiscing. But how's your family doing through this COVID bullshit in this past year? What are some of the things that you guys have filled your time with? And you have a son, Jasper, is that correct?
Yeah, Jasper turned 13 today.
Oh, happy birthday, Jasper.
I have a teenager, Jesus Christ. And he's nothing like I was, thank God. We've been good, you know, keeping busy and doing things that you know you do as an adult. You know, you kind of try and keep your business going. My wife has a business that's doing really well. You know, as a band, we keep in touch with one another. We get on Zoom calls. We're doing a series of cover songs to be released later in the year. We've got a new record that's coming out. So I've been doing a lot of interviews for that. That comes
you wrote
out
a song with Pete Cornell, with Chris Cornell's brother?
Yeah, Peter and I wrote a song called Let Me Down Easy, which I love. I think it's a fucking great song. And I've been baking bread. You know, my son's doing homeschool because, you know, Los Angeles isn't allowing kids to go back to school. So we're well. My family in Seattle are healthy, and, you know, none of us have been sick. So, you know, I've lost some friends over the past year to COVID.
I'm sorry.
Sadly, yeah, it's a motherfucker, and I don't know why it's so difficult for people to put on a fucking mask. but it is what it is. Life moves on, and like I said, I'm healthy, and I've got no complaints really.
It's funny you said you make bread, because I saw on Instagram these pictures of loaves of bread, and you're reminding me of my parents. I mean, you're reminding me of my parents, because they're making pizzas and bread. Seems like every Sunday. Me and Ashley, my girlfriend, we go over to my parents' place. We watch the Bills whoop some ass. Unfortunately, it wasn't the same last week. But my dad, he's just swirling bread in different shapes, and they're making pizzas. And we go in, and I think the Motown you could hear from down the street. What kind
That's
of
awesome.
Yeah. What kind of music do you play when you're making your bread, and why bread?
Well, I guess it's probably the process. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it's the process of putting the whole thing together. And I do it by hand. It takes 24 hours, the whole kind of kneading and proofing process and baking it. And I like that. It's something that you have to take care of and work through and respect, because you fuck it up, the bread doesn't grow, the yeast doesn't grow, and because it's a sourdough, I'm not using fake yeast. I have to create it. I have to create the bacteria. I have to create the gluten. It all has to kind of gel together. So it's a creative process, and I'm a creative person. Maybe that's why I love it. I listen to Boz Scaggs radio.
What's that?
It's kind of yacht rockish, but I love Boz Scaggs. They play a lot of really cool shit on there that I grew up listening to, because I have an older sister that's 10 years older than me. So obviously in the 70s, there was a lot of that kind of cool, jazzy, Pablo Cruz, thanks Will Ferrell for wearing that t-shirt all the fucking time. But yeah, it's that kind of music. So, and I like it. I find it very comforting. I don't really I listen to maybe the Psychedelic Furs radio, because I love kind of cool 80s new wave. But I don't listen to anything new. I don't really like new music unless maybe it's Tame Impala or War on Drugs, which I love both those bands. I like kind of classic old jazz and pop, rock and roll.
Gotcha.
Stones radio station's really good too.
That's a good time. Get some classic rock, some harmonica going. Absolutely. Are you drinking anything when you're doing this? A little wine, a little beer, or
whiskey? Yeah, lots of whiskey.
Whiskey. Okay.
The small batch, high proof stuff.
Are we going to have a Kevin Martin bread company someday, or
bread box?
Bread box. Yeah, there you go.
No, I'm going to make a loaf. I think I'm going to make a loaf once a week now and start auctioning it off for charity. So that's something that my wife has been kind of beating me up to do. So maybe I'll have a loaf up there in a couple of weeks, and people can bid on it, and the highest bidder gets the loaf. I'll FedEx it overnight, and it'll be hopefully just as good as it was when it came out of the oven.
Is that going to be on eBay or Candlebox website?
No, I'll just do it on the Instagram.
Instagram. Okay, gotcha. What's the business that your wife has right now?
She has a clothing line called Natalie Martin Collection. It's all resort wear, kind of silks and rayons and stuff. It's really beautiful. Nobody's wearing it at resorts right now, so I think they're wearing them around the house. But it's very, very comfortable, and thankfully I guess it's the new sweatsuit. So there you go.
All right. There's a website for that, Kev?
Yeah, NatalieMartinCollection.com.
Awesome. And I'll include that in the link below, along with the table of contents of our conversation here. Let's see. This is my final question to you here, Kev. And again, I have Kevin Martin, lead singer, co-founder of Candlebox, here from Seattle, Washington, checking in, of course, from his hometown currently in Los Angeles. What's the greatest gift that being Kevin Martin of Candlebox has given you after all these years?
Oh, my son.
Your son.
Yeah. Music, I've had some, there've been amazing gifts, the opportunity to be the singer of this band and, to tour the world and all that stuff. But, being Kevin Martin from Candlebox moved me to Los Angeles, where I met my wife, Natalie, and she gave me my son. It's every father wants a son, I think. I know I love, maybe I would have wanted a daughter as well. But, I think, I love my wife very much. I love girls, but having a son is something that I think that every father wants. You know, it's somebody to throw the ball with and skateboard with and run around with, and, you know, share moments of confusion with, you know, those types of things that a son can only talk to his father about, you know, and I love that. And he's a great kid, and very lucky. Yeah, that's been the greatest gift.
Beautiful answer, man. And I really want to thank you again for the time and coming on I Ask No One here, and hopefully sometime again. Next time, I'm not going anywhere with this podcast, but you have a streaming coming up here at Max, right, on the 30th, live
tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Nice. Getting excited for that. All ready for that?
I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll see. I'll be tuning in.
Right on.
As I like to end my episodes here, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and stay motherfucking heavy, man. Fucking pleasure. And man, God bless. Have a great year and all the best.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.
See you, buddy.